Hello, welcome. It has been a little while since I have last filmed, but I thought today I would throw on my coziest, comfiest, most wintry and Christmassy sweater that used to be my dad's, so thank you, Dad, for letting me steal your sweater like 10 years ago. I thought I would share with you the books that I want to read this winter, and I'm not going to tell you the synopses for each of these, partly because I haven't read them yet. I don't fully know, but I thought I would tell you the books that I'm really excited about, things that I'm going to be reading this December, things I'm going to read in January. So this is kind of a combination of just all the winter books that I want to read and that I'm really excited for. So I will just jump in. First up, this is a reread. I reread this book almost every year. I skipped last year because it is the Game of Tomes pick for December. That is the book club run by Emmy and Carolyn Marie Reeds here on YouTube, and I've been trying to keep up with their book club. I haven't done the greatest job, but I am so excited to be reading Little Women. This is one of my all-time favorite books. And like I said, I try to reread it every year, but to kind of build up anticipation, I did not read it last Christmas. And I'm so excited to read it again. What I typically do is I read the first half of the book, and then I read parts of Good Wives, the second part of Little Women, and, then I kind of peter off at the sad parts. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be rereading the entire book. I haven't done that in a really long time. So I'm really, really excited to rejoin the March Sisters. Every time I read this book, it's really just like having a family reunion. I love this book so much. I love all of the characters. So I'm so excited to be rereading this book this December. I'm hoping to finish it before 2025, but we shall see. All right, so we have a very big pile. I'm gonna try to go through this really quickly. First up, I have already started this, and this is White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And I haven't read a Dostoevsky book since I was in high school. I last read Crime and Punishment when I was a senior, and I haven't read anything by him since, I don't think. I may have read Notes on the Underground in college, but I can't quite remember, so I'm not going to credit myself for that. But I am really enjoying this so far. It's a really beautiful story. It strikes me as a bit of a novella, or maybe even a short story. This particular edition has White Nights and another short story by him, Bobak. So I don't know if I'm going to be reading Bobak. I may just try to finish White Nights, but I'm really enjoying it so far. And I forgot how readable Dostoevsky is. I mean, I guess it is kind of dependent upon translation, but I have just been so enjoying this, and this really it's so readable. It's been reading really quickly. So I have this edition, and I also have it on my Kindle so I can read when I go to sleep. But I love this edition so much. I don't know why all books can't be this size. This is the perfect size. It can go with me anywhere. This is perfect. So that is White Nights. Okay, another book club pick. I'm reading this for the well-read book club hosted by just Carolyn Marie Reeds herself, and I haven't read this before. It is E.T.A. Hoffman's The Nutcracker in this beautiful cloth-bound edition. I absolutely love it, and again, it's the perfect size. It's the perfect little book. I've never read this before. I really enjoy the ballet and the Tchaikovsky not soundtrack, that's not the right word, but I really enjoy the story in other forms, and I'm really excited to read the book, finally. I can't believe I've never gotten around to it before. Next, I have Moomin Land Midwinter by Tove Jansson, and I am really excited to read this because I have never read a Moomin book before. I don't know how that happened, but I've known about them for forever, and I've just never really gotten around to them. And of course, this is the perfect book to fit in the winter time. Look how cute the illustrations are. And I'm excited to read my first Moomin book. Look at that, that's adorable. So this is one of those books that I may save for 2025. Little Women and White Knights and The Nutcracker are books that I'm going to try to read in December, but this will probably wait until 2025, but we shall see. The same goes for Snow by Orhan Pamuk. I'm really sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. I should have looked it up beforehand, and that is my bad, and I apologize. But this is a book I've had on my shelves for a very, very long time. I thrifted this 2 or 3 years ago, and every winter it has stared me in the face and looked me in the eye and said, "Are you going to read me yet this year, or are you going to save me for next year?" And this is the year I'm going to make it happen. I also got the audiobook on sale. I think Audible is having a sale on audiobooks, and they had it on really good sale, so I snatched it up. So either physically or through audiobook, I will be reading this winter. Next up, we have another book I've had my eye on for a really long time, The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. This is another book I've had for so long. Before I started my master's program and kind of into the beginning of my master's, I worked at Barnes & Noble. I worked in the children's section, and every time I worked in the children's section, I always saw this book and again made eye contact with it, and I was like, oh, that book looks so fun. This seems like such a romp, and I really love middle grade. I haven't read a middle grade book in a while, and I feel like this is the perfect one to pick up. Probably going to be 2025, but we shall see. I did get the audiobook through my library, so this may be sooner. We'll see when I'm able to get around to before the end of the year. Next up, this is another Emmy recommendation. This is Icefields by Thomas Wharton. I would really love to read this. Another book I've had owned for a really long time, and this just seems like the perfect book to cozy up to when it's the dead of January or February and it's snowing outside and you're home and it's blizzarding and you're drinking hot cocoa. This seems like the perfect pick. So, and it's not terribly long, so that could be a fun one to try to read in a day. Next up are a handful of classics, actually, that I have been hoping to read the last couple of years and I haven't gotten around to, so I'm really going to try to make it work for this year. This is James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. This is one of my favorite books of all time, but I haven't read it in a really long time. I remember reading this book in school, both in high school, and then I read it again when I was in college, and I remember loving it, but that was a number of years ago, so I'm really excited to reread this. This was on my TBR for 2024. We'll see if I get around to it, but again, could be a really great pick for January or February. So, and I really, really love Oxford Classics editions. I just think they're so fun to read and annotate a little bit. So, there's that one. Next up, another classic that I have not read before and is going to be a bit of a bear, but I think is going to be really fun, is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This is very ambitious. I think you can probably tell at this point this TBR might be a little delusional. It might be a little ambitious, but I am really, really excited to read this book. I have been wanting to read it for so long. I've never gotten around to it, and you know, with the Dostoevsky and the Tolstoy, I've really been enjoying Russian literature in the last couple of years. This time last year, I was reading Yevgeny Onegin by Pushkin. Pushkin is a little bit of foreshadowing for one of the upcoming books, but I loved that book so much. It's a novel in verse, and it's beautiful. It's perfect for winter if you're looking for a fun poetry recommendation for the winter time. And whenever I think about that book, it makes me just really want to read more Russian lit, and I think it's finally time to read Anna Karenina and tackle this book. Next up, like I said, I am hoping to read Russian magic tales from Pushkin to Platonov, and I will not probably read this entire book. That, you know, there's a lot of short stories in here. I probably won't be able to get to them all, but I really want to try to read the Pushkin stories that are in here. And I'll tell you the titles. It is A Tale About a Priest and His Servant Balda, and A Tale About a Fisherman and a Fish. So this is actually a recommendation from my husband. This is his book of short stories, and whenever I talk about wanting to reread Evgeny Onegin, he always pulls this, tells me to read it. So I think it's going to be the perfect thing for the winter time. A little bit of winter magic. 2 more books. We're almost done. Okay, second to last, we had Ian Forster's Maurice. I reread A Room with a View earlier in the year. I think I finished it in early September, and I really loved it. It's another one of my all-time favorite books, and I've never read Maurice before by Ian Forster, and I'm probably going to save this for 2025. This one seems to have almost like a little bit of an academic vibe. It seems like it takes place in Cambridge, and I love Ian Forster. I love stories set in the Edwardian era, and I think this is going to be a really fun one. Soon after I finished A Room with a View, I bought this, and I remember reading part of the first chapter, and it just seemed really wintry, and I was like, okay, this is going to be something I save for the winter time. So I'm really excited about this one. And finally, this is actually a book I wanted to read in the fall time and I didn't get around to, and I just love the first book in this series. It is Map of the Other Lands by Heather Fawcett, and is the second book in the Emily Wilde series. Like I said, I loved the first book in this series, and I've been kind of sitting on this book for a while. It came out, was it earlier in the year or was it even last year? I can't remember. Let me look. Oh yeah, it came out this year. I've heard that this one is just as good as the first, so I'm really excited to read this one as well. And I really like the audiobook narrator for this series, so this could be a fun one to listen to while I'm working or doing chores or any of those things. So that's one I'm really excited about as well. That is it for my TBR, for my wintertime TBR for December, January, February. Hopefully I'll get to these. Maybe I'll only read part of them. That is kind of the fun of TBRs. I feel like I never get around to all of the books that I put on the list, but they're fun to put together and they're fun to talk about, so I thought I would share it with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon for another cozy reading vlog.